They're fighting a villain with time-stopping abilities in an Egypt-esque setting. Yeah, no, I can't think of any references to make here. Continuing right from where we left off last week, everyone was getting the Yu-Gi-Oh treatment, and no, I don't just say that because, again, we're in an Egyptian setting, and it's one of the most mainstream TCGs out there, but also because the villain had a monoseed on his left arm that was basically just a dual disc. Granted, his voice kind of reminded me of another character from another TCG I used to play. Man, Naoki was never the same after Brawlers went out of fashion. And yeah, this is my favorite deck style back when I played Cardfight Vanguard, and I just kind of quit after the meta just kept on changing and changing and changing. However, I guess Logi wasn't a fan of the Legion cards and also wanted to get Teltina back because Simps got Simp. I've been seeing a lot of that as of late. This ended up being his downfall when Naoki used her as a distraction. From there, Azir showed up and explained his goals, which were your typical ruling through tyranny in order to bring peace ideals whilst talking in the most pompous way possible. Understandably, even his closest friend in Rania didn't buy into it, but also did want to sort things out with him. With that, the heroes henshin and were told to follow them to a remote location in the desert. Thus, they needed some sort of transportation. Personally, I prefer the types that also are riders themselves. At the location, they dealt with their first enemy, which was just some big chimera dude, which, if this were an actual tokusatsu, he'd probably just be some CGI abomination. And since those things tend to cost money, they just quickly squashed the guy.
That was pointless.
With that, they could focus on Naoki, who I'm guessing didn't take being rejected by Aichi all that well. It's trap card open, dude. Get it right. You know, I'm starting to realize I might be into too many geeky things. Also, am I the only one who thought about that one trap card that Bakura used against Merrick that for whatever reason was never turned into a real card? I mean, I know trap cards aren't part of the meta nowadays, but it still would have been fun to have back then. Anyway, there was only one phrase that they could use to turn the tables in this duel.
Huh?
And I guess Idra was a fan of Ring of Destruction, as she had set up an explosive trap just before she was sealed. Of course, you'd normally take the same amount of damage as your enemy if you used that, but thanks to a certain someone, Idra is just kind of desensitized to that, which is both hilarious and also kind of highlight the unique bonds that Togo had made with her. With that, his life points were brought down to 0, and everyone was released. From there, Teltina wrapped things up with her big doggy, kind of to the dismay of everyone there, except for Logi, who kind of was into it. Yeah, I kind of preferred not knowing about this dude's kinks. With that, only Azir seemed to be left, though his servitor Vida was kind of the obvious real villain. I mean, I swear I haven't read ahead into the manga, I just get that feeling based on Evil Butler, and if we're going by Yu-Gi-Oh rules, anyone with more than one color in their hair has to be a very significant character. And hey, if things don't work out, you could also do a little dance for him. The heroes eventually arrived, and the battle began with him summoning a Millennium monster, probably because this guy's a big fan of Exodia. Good taste. With it, he could not only control sand, he could also turn whatever it touched into the stuff of Anakin's nightmares. As a result, the other members of Togo's team fell through some quicksand, leaving the heroes to ask Azir what his deal was. Dude, if you're trying to be pretentiously edgy while eating candy, Beer Gab already beat you to that. Yeah, I'll just say right now, this dude's dialogue, at least for this particular episode, was just eye-rolling. Like, I get that they'll probably do a lot more with him soon, but right now at least, he just comes off as a pretentious prick, rather than at least an entertainingly hammy villain like Abu Dhabi or even Shalha. Anyway, we did at least get some decent and kind of clever fighting, like Togo avoiding touching the Malayan monster by punching it through some bandages. Meanwhile, Rania showed off her form changes, which included a Fragile Speedster, which is usually one of the coolest non-Super Mode forms. However, after using that one power to stop the time, Azir just managed to rather easily bind the heroes. Of course, Togo tried to reason with the guy by explaining the effects of the mana seeds, which of course this pompous ass wasn't listening to, thus he sent Togo down to be reunited with his friends.
邪魔なんだよ、異世界人。
And you're a putz, what's your point? With that, it came down to Rania while the original quartet tried to get out of their bind. And she didn't hold up too well, but at least we got an interesting flashback, which would thankfully start to develop this wet rag of an antagonist. Sure enough, it was cute as hell, as not only was Azir far less pompous, but we also got to see the early days of Rania's split personality, where they outright said that she was wearing literal common or mask, but just not riding anything yet. Regardless, it was wholesome, and Haruka Shiraishi was able to show off her acting chops rather than just being a literal sick dog all the time. Moreover, we got some interesting world building, like how the elves of this particular fantasy world had actually lost their ability to live for millennia thanks to the Demon Queen. As a result, their lifespans were now on fairly even ground with humans, which I'm guessing is going to play into something later. But yeah, all in all, just a great flashback sequence that fleshed out both of these characters and really highlighted how they both used to be sweet kids, in particular Rania, who didn't really change at all, and I'm betting they're going to do the same with Azir.
止められるものなら君に止めてほしかったよ。
Back with Toko's group, after some shenanigans, they managed to escape thanks to using one of his Zords.
よくやったぞフレンディ
I'll get to the wonderful overview when I have the time, damn it! However, the episode ended with a cliffhanger as Azir defeated Rania and took her Henshi bag because I guess they were making a few Fives references, so this thing could also be used by everyone. Oh, come on, dude. You could stretch out your syllables way longer than that. This was an okay-ish episode, if a little rushed at times. I mean, while I actually don't have that much of an issue with Azir, as they're also clearly going to flesh him out next week, it's just that he doesn't feel all that much of a big deal. I think the biggest issue was just a lack of build-up due to the underlings, well, just not delivering at all. Maybe it's because I'm coming off of the high of last week's pure Toski Inoue-induced fever dream. Like, I must have been tripping because I swear the Solar Aquarion just appeared out of nowhere at one point. Regardless, the fights this week were kind of underwhelming. I mean, the Chimera dude was just one-shotted, and the animation during Azir's battle was inconsistent, though it did have some cool moments here and there. Ironically enough, I'd actually considered the battle with Naoki as the standout. Yeah, hardly any punches were thrown, but at least it had an awesome moment for Idra that highlighted her developing bond with Togo. Outside of the fights, there were interesting moments, most notably the flashback to Azir and Rania's childhood that managed to effectively develop both characters and saved the former from being an outright underwhelming antagonist. That said, when it's all compounded with some lame lackeys, it kinda makes this conflict feel pretty meh. Still, overall, this was an okay-ish episode, mostly thanks to Idra yet again, and good character development for Azir and especially Rania. I do find this main conflict to be rather questionable, but let's not let Axel hear that. Thanks for watching, and if you want my card, it'll invite you to watch some of our other videos on this channel. We've got something new coming out almost every day, except next week, as Chimera Gav and Idol Precure are taking the week off, thank God. Still, look forward to this week's Gav review tomorrow, and until then, though, fair for now, my friends, and, wait, Exodia is actually kind of meta these days? I need to look into this.